Hey, my name is Victor Lee, and today I want to talk about my guitars, my amps, and the pedals and processors and things I use for recordings and such. There's just a lot to cover within one video, so I want to divide those videos up into 3 different categories. So the first video that you're watching today is going to be all about the guitars and the amplifiers. The second video, I want to focus on the pedals. And the third video, I want it to be about the recording production side of things. So without further ado, let me just introduce you to some of the guitars I use. So this beautiful guitar is called Angel by Tom Anderson Guitars. This guitar in particular is very special to me, not just because it's a great guitar, but also this enabled me to make some wonderful relationships, personal relationships with some of the friends that I am friends with now. So a couple things about the guitar. This is a 24 fret instrument. It's got basswood back, as you can see here. And then quilted top, quilt maple top. The top is one of the best looking tops I've ever seen on a quilt. The finish is called like deep tobacco fade, and it's got some binding. The neck is called chocolate maple. It's almost like a roasted maple, there's like a different tiers in terms of how you cook it. There's a caramel maple that they do, which is a little more faded color, but it's still like a cooked up maple. So the neck shape of this guitar is even taper. Also, it's got a compound radius. I believe it's 10 to 14 inch or 12 to 14, I think. It's got big jumbo stainless steel frets, which I like. And a little bit about the electronics. The pickups are HF2, SF1, HF1. These originally came with H2 and 1 pickups, but I prefer the HFs. And a standard 5-way switch, but then you get this 3-way toggle switch. You can get a split humbucker sound, and in this position you get what's called a VA boost. As far as I understand, it's a passive boost. They accomplish it by adding the windings on the pickups, I think. I could be wrong. I should call Rory and ask him about it. But it essentially gets me a rounder, more bloated tone. It's not an everyday sort of a tone, but I did use it on a section of my song, Strangely Familiar. And then I can blend the bridge pickup in any position if I pull this tone knob. So if I split it, then I get kind of like a telly thing. You know, regular humbucker, I get the regular 2 humbucker, and then VA boost of the 2, and then like this is the split 2 plus the humbucker. But if I do this, like a split 2 plus the split. Basically a lot of a sound. And 2-point, the block style bridge. I love this style of bridge. They just sound good, and I prefer this kind of bridge to Floyd Rhodes. This guitar in particular has a little coating or like a polish to the note. I don't know, everything sounds 3D. Clean sound comes out really great. The distortion sound is very particular too. Definitely has its own voice. It's not a generic sounding guitar. So for that reason, I immediately know if I need this particular sound, I will, go grab this guitar. The way this pushes back when I play hard, it doesn't seem to contain the energy within, but rather it reflects right back to you, which I thought was interesting. It was a different response that I was getting from, all the other guitars of mine. So yeah, Angel from Tom Anderson. Awesome. So this particular guitar is called Mahogany Deluxe Standard from Suhr. They had this limited run in this spec and this aesthetics back in 2013, I believe. They made 50 of them, and mine's number 40. As far as the looks go, this is probably one of my favorite ever on a guitar. So as the name suggests, this is all about mahogany. So mahogany back with the red back, and mahogany neck and rosewood board. So it's like a Les Paul wood, but it's still in the full scale. And the neck shape of this guitar is Slim C. I thought it was gonna be like a really, really slim neck. It's slim. It's definitely on the thinner side than a thicker side, but it's not it's not too thin. Like I said, like the Angel, it's got a nice balance. I think that's why I go for these two guitars, because they like enable me to play certain things better than other guitars. This guitar also has compound radius, and it's 10 to 14 inches. It gets flattened as you go up here. And the pickups are SSH plus, SSV, and there are some options since it's a 5-way. So on here I get split both. I get both together, split neck humbucker, and then full humbucker here. And this humbucker pickup, the SSV, this has to me what's like a single coilish attack, but you get everything that's great about humbuckers. You still get that like chime on top of the note and the zinginess, but also at the same time sounds a little laid back and a little fuller in the bottom end. And then this humbucker is a rather hot output humbucker, but when I run this humbucker in parallel by pulling this tone knob, this almost sounds like a PAF style humbucker. I've had an SSV humbucker, which is PAF style, in another guitar of mine. I swapped it out to something else and it started missing it a lot because the pickup has like a really brash cutting top end, but it still remains really warm. And this position gives me that sound. But if I run a PAF style humbucker in parallel, it sounds a little too thin, and I don't particularly like that sound. But high output humbucker parallel is very, very usable in my opinion. Makes the guitar that much more versatile. And what else? The gold hardwares, the bridge. This is a Goto 510 bridge with block saddles and 2-point. Really great feeling bridge as well. And locking tuners from Suhr. Along with my Angel. Those two are the ones that I reach for if I'm doing any sort of like a lead work or the main lead melodies of my songs and stuff like that. Also, the clean voice on this is quite cool. There's a natural compression that's happening within the guitar. When I dig in, especially when I do like a finger style thing on this, sounds really warm and it's not necessarily pokey. This next guitar is Suhr Classic S. This was my first Suhr and my first introduction to stainless steel frets. The size of frets is medium, same as the Mahogany Deluxe, I forgot to mention. The pickups are V60 LP, V60, and Thornbucker Plus, but I've changed pickups a bunch of times on this guitar. I've had V70s on here, the regular Thornbucker here, SSV, SSH, and this combination seems to work the best for this guitar. It's a bright guitar to begin with, so the SSV was a little too much of that cut. Oh, and then I get split coil humbucker if I pull the tone. And I left a little bit, I don't know if you can see it here, like I have a little bit of a space that I can put my hand under and then like do this, because otherwise it's really difficult to pull that like hat type of knob. So that was done on purpose. And then it's got alder body, maple neck, rosewood board, just your regular Strat thing. This is probably the one guitar that I can do a lot with, just because, you know, it can sound really old, it can sound modern if I wanted to. also it's got a Goto 510 bridge, but with more traditional saddles, so the sound different, I guess. I just love the actions on the whammy actions on these bridges. It's just so smooth. This guitar is in the same family, the Classic Pro series, and it's a Telecaster. This particular guitar is a very straightforward, nothing changed, nothing needs to change, just a good old Tele, just a robust Tele without a cut. So as uncomfortable as it gets, you know? But I love this guitar, really straightforward. I can do a lot with it. This is the guitar that I use the most for like the clean fingerstyle arrangement thing that I do a lot on Instagram. Suhr Classic T pickups here, 3-way switch, and then, you know, same old, it's a maple neck, ash body. So it's got medium-sized stainless steel frets, and it's the same neck shape as the Classic S that I have. The string space is a little different because the bridge is different, and the string tensions are a little different. This, compared to some of the Fenders that I've had over the years, was that this guitar sounded a little more laid back and mellower than the Fender Teles. I almost like that better because it's more like a vanilla. I can use it in a lot of situations and I can make it work. It blends with the songs a lot better than if it was too characteristic. So this guitar is called Studio Elite 100 CE, stands for Custom Edition. And it's missing strings and a neck pickup. But the company that makes these guitars is called Vulcan, and they ran out of business. My mom bought me this guitar. It was my first like serious guitar back in 2008. That's when I started gigging and I was in a band and everything. It still has a Seymour Duncan JB, the vintage rail. It used to have Seymour Duncan 59 in the neck. I swapped that out to Anderson HF1, now is in my Angel. So that's why it's missing the pickup. I gotta get a new pickup in soon so I can start playing. So this, as far as the spec goes, it's a mahogany body, maple top. Not as pretty as the other ones, but it's flame maple. The neck is Canadian hard maple, where it's got 2 lines of walnut to sort of enhance the strength of the neck, since the neck is really thin. It's almost like a wizard neck. It's really, really thin. The fretboard is also very flat. It feels almost like 14 all the way through. I think it's 16 or 14 all the way through. Frets right now are stainless steel medium-sized frets that I refretted about 2 years ago. It cost almost as much as a guitar. Not like as much, but you get what I'm saying. It was expensive and not a rational decision. But I did it for like a sentimental value because like I'm not gonna sell this guitar. It's my first guitar. My song Second Chance, the first solo is this guitar. And it sounds really majestic. Floyd Rose has the particular tone, in my opinion. So like the bridge pickup sounds the way they do. partially because of the Floyd Rhodes. But a regular 5-way switch and non-locking tuner, because you lock it here anyways. So I've got a couple of basses to show you. I have a couple basses around to play on my record, and I just like playing bass as well. So this is a six-string bass from Ibanez. It's called BTB 686 Terra Firma. Henrik Linder from Dirty Loops turned me on to 6-string basses, and I sort of just bought one without giving it much thought. I just thought I'd need it. So the body is rosewood and the ash wings, and then Bartolini BH1 pickups, and it's got 3 band EQ. It's a great sounding bass. Love. It's like a modern style jazz bass. And this is just a classic Fender precision bass. It's a Mexican made, right? Yep. Precision bass Deluxe, which comes with the jazz pickup in the bridge. And I played this bass on a tune called Detour. Sounded great. And this is my acoustic, long overdue, a beginner acoustic, really. It's like 200 something bucks, 230 bucks acoustic from Korea. It's called Dame. What's the model? It's like a Kara 100 EQ. It's a really, really cheap acoustic, but it sounds nice, and it doesn't play as well as I wanted to play. So I'm considering having the bridge lowered. Sounds fantastic, to be honest. So it doesn't really matter what the price tag is telling you. It's just, if it's a good guitar, it's a good guitar. So that was all my guitars, and let me move on to the amps now. So these are the amps I use. I do love amps even though I have an AX8, and I'm still an advocate for old school amps doing their thing, and I still believe that they have something special to offer. The one on the left is called Event Horizon, made by a company called PWE, or Painting with Electrons. And I use this head for most of my recordings, about 75% of the times. PWE is a one-man company by Ted Stevenson in Montreal, Canada, and he builds these amps by hand. It is essentially a 3-channel amp with American clean voice on channel 1 and modded Marshall type of sound on channel 2. And it's also got a boost channel with its own volume control and a switch that I'll get to pretty soon here. This amp is a 100 watt EL34 head, but it has a variable power control, making it manageable at different circumstances. The amp just sounds big, and it has an overdrive voice that I really, really like. It's kind of like a Marshall, like it's Marshall-y, but it's got its own thing happening. It has a unique control called Hyper-On, which is essentially a preamp bias control. The more you turn up, the more liquidy the sound gets, and set it down low, you get more raw, stringy sound. And that switch on the boost lets you automatically time that control when you switch on the boost, make it adequate for solo moments. It also has unique voicing features like negative feedback control, which changes the attack and stiffness of the amp, and 5-point right switch that shifts the characteristics of the amp pretty drastically. And the one on the right is Suhr Badger 35, and it runs EL84s in the power section. It's also got a tube rectifier section as opposed to the PWE, which has a solid state rectifier. And as a lot of you guys may know, the interesting feature of the Badgers is the power scaling. I think the more you play with the balance between the power and the drive control, the better you will get to know the amp and dial in its optimal tones. For recordings, I like to run the power all the way up. But for the live stuff, getting the right balance between those two knobs have been the essential thing to get the right tone and the right feel under the fingers. I like this amp when it's just crunching up, and I think it shines at that setting. So kind of like a semi-clean sound where when you dig in, it breaks up, but when you play light, it still reads as clean. I love it for light rhythm crunch sound for pop and R&B stuff, and it kind of reminds me of JTM45, but with some boxy voice mixed in. And this amp also sounds great getting hit by a variety of overdrive pedals. I particularly like the Suhr Cocoa Boost because I think they voice that pedal with Badgers, so they get along really well. Some clone type pedals work really nicely. My favorite these days have been the Sick As by Bondi pedals. So that's it for the first part of the video. I hope you enjoyed the little tour of my guitars and the amps. I'm planning on making a lot more videos on YouTube. If you'd like to tune in for tutorials of my music stuff and something like this, and make sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification button so you're gonna be the first one to be notified when I have more videos like this. And otherwise, I'll see you next time.